ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to Thursday Night Football Overtime. Niners, Seahawks, NFC West family business. You know how the family do it. Man, this is kind of what I expected. It didn't feel like it was heading in that direction initially. This felt like a blowout at 23 to 3, I believe it was, before the kickoff return. I think that made it 23 to 10, if I'm not mistaken. It was 23 to 3, excuse me. And yeah, I said that. Didn't I say that? 23 to 3? Felt like it was right on pace with a blowout. And my wife was sitting next to me. We were watching the game. And I had said this on the podcast. If San Francisco's up 2 scores in the fourth quarter, I don't trust them. And with the way this season is going, with their inability to score in the red zone, their penchant for turning the ball over in some critical spots, I don't trust them. So I don't think this game is ever over. And when they had that kickoff return, I said, uh-oh, here we go. And my wife said, I told you they was going to come back. I don't trust San Francisco. And I said, here we go. And sure enough, the 49ers go 3 and out. Seahawks get the football, go right down the field and score again. Now, all of a sudden, felt like a blowout. What was a 20-point game literally just 3 minutes ago is now a 6-point ball game at 23 to 17. And I'm like, what in the hell just happened? And Seattle had their chances. They had their shots with an S. And they just couldn't take advantage of those opportunities. And finally, this is egregious. This is the second time this season on national television that the NFL has botched a call that is apparent to everyone at home. And it is unbelievable that they've got all these camera angles. And that is the weakest excuse that I've ever heard. Don't tell me that you don't have the angle that we had on television. That's bogus. That's bullshit. You should have every angle afforded to you. And if you can't get it, you wait until you find it. There's no excuse for that call not to be overturned and the ball awarded to the San Francisco 49ers. We can all clearly see that that ball skipped off the thumb of that Seattle Seahawks return man. There is no excuse as to why they didn't have that same camera angle and couldn't determine that that ball touched that the Seattle Seahawks return man and that ball wasn't awarded. Clear recovery. That should have been 49ers ball. They would have kicked a field goal. They wouldn't have scored a touchdown off of it. Doesn't matter. Would have been a 9-point lead instead of a 6-point lead. That's atrocious. And the reason I'm so upset is because what if that was my team? I would have lost my shit. Get it right. There's no excuse. There's too much money that's generated by this league. You're a billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar corporation. Figure that shit out. Unbelievable. If the 49ers had lost this game, we're going right back to that play. Thank God they won this game and that didn't come into play. But that's ridiculous. I said in the preview for this game that Seattle couldn't afford to turn the ball over. They didn't turn it over once. They didn't turn it over twice. They turned it over 3 times. And the fact that this thing was even close, should have been a 4th, obviously. The fact that this thing was even close is a testament to just how off the 49ers are right now. And we're going to start there. We're going to start with the San Francisco 49ers. Here's my I'm going to get to the game in a second. But here's my initial thoughts on San Francisco, having watched them all season long and having watched this game. And, this is the first time I think I've watched them this season where I got to kind of really it's one thing to watch the 42-minute cut up and watch every single snap. It's another thing to actually sit there for 3 hours, watch the team, see what's going on, and get a full picture of what's going on in San Francisco. Here's my synopsis. Yes, they're banged up. But you know what they also are? They're very young right now. They're very young. And Renardo Green had a pick tonight. That looked good. Mustafa had a pick. That's another youngin. That's another puppy, right? So 2 puppies with picks tonight. Dominic Pooney is starting at what, right guard, right? Isaac Gorindo is ripping off 70-yard runs with the game on the line. Like, this is a young team, and they still don't have their first-round pick playing yet. And at some point, that will happen, right? And so, and Ricky Pearsall. And so, this is a young team. I'm like, obviously, tons of veterans all over the place, but they're young when it's all said and done, right? And Jordan Mason is a young player as well, not a rookie, but he's a young guy as well. It's a young team, and with young teams come mistakes. Unfortunately, it's a part of the deal. You put the youngins out there, they make a ton of plays, they also give up plays, they make mistakes. It's a part of the process. Here's what I see as this season wears on, and these young guys continue to play, and it's baptism by fire. By the time you get to week 15 and 16, these guys are no longer rookies. They're still technically rookies, but they've played enough ball. They see what it is now. They understand what is being asked of them. You're more comfortable with them being put in different situations. And I could see the 49ers hitting their stride a little bit later in the season. At this point, I don't even think you can rely on Christian McCaffrey returning. If I'm a 49ers fan, I'm not holding my breath on that. When you start talking about tendonitis and Achilles and both, legs and, there's no timetable. We know that this guy's dealt with injuries in his past. And I thought these were behind him, to be honest with you, but clearly they were not. And I wouldn't count on Christian McCaffrey coming back this year. And honestly, the running back position isn't the issue. We know this to be a fact. If you're a football fan, you've watched football for long enough, you know the history of the Shanahans. Hell, I could have got down there and ran for 89 yards tonight on 13 carries behind their offensive line with that scheme, with Seattle's run defense being what it is. The 49ers ran for 228 yards tonight, like with 3 different backs toting the rock. Like, what are we talking about here, right? Like, it's not that. It's when they get into the red zone. That is when they miss Christian McCaffrey. There was a play tonight that is a great example for me. And it was the same thing last week, and I think I said the same thing to myself last week watching the game. Jordan Mason runs a route down inside the red zone, and he's not Christian McCaffrey. He doesn't snap it off. He doesn't make a guy miss. He just runs a bland route. The defender paced to him, right? And the pass is incomplete. Tonight, he ran a weak route against, Jerome Baker, and it was incomplete because it was nowhere to throw the football, right? And he just isn't McCaffrey. And it's easy to say that because there aren't many dudes that are Christian McCaffrey. This isn't a shot at Jordan Mason. Christian McCaffrey going into the season was the best back in the league. So it's hard to replace that type of production. Anytime you get that close to the end zone, McCaffrey sniffs the end zone, whether he's a receiver or he's a runner. And they don't have that right now. And they're struggling in the red zone. And so I don't know how long it's going to take Kyle to adjust, to figure out we got to get creative in the red zone because we can't just do the things that we normally do. And I thought Purdy was really good tonight, especially that throw to Kittle. Like, I don't know how the hell he got it in there. Perfect accuracy. Great job of Kittle getting his feet down and getting that touchdown. But they're going to have to figure out some of this stuff on the fly. When you got the young fellas out there, when you don't have your bell cow and you've struggled in the red zone the way the 49ers have, and you've had untimely turnovers, they're going to have to figure it out. But if there's anybody that can't figure it out, it's the San Francisco 49ers team. And what I see is a team right now trying to figure out how they fit into all of this, right? Where they fit in this equation with all these young players, with all the injuries, with the inefficiency in the red zone, the untimely turnovers, they're figuring all this stuff out. Get it out of your system now. We've seen this from San Francisco before. This is why if I'm a 49ers fan, I'm not even flinching right now. This doesn't move me. Find a way to win. And that's what they did tonight. And, on one side of the coin, you're 3-3. You are what your record says you are, yada, yada, yada. You were 0-2 going into this game in the division. Now you're 1-2. Had to have this one. Couldn't afford to fall to 0-3 in the division. On the other side of the coin, though, you could easily convince yourself we could be 5-1. The only game that you, to me, truly lost and you weren't going to win was the Minnesota game. You should have beaten the Rams. You had no business losing that game. You should have beat Arizona. If you have a field goal kicker, even with the Jordan Mason fumble, you still win that game. So you should be 5-1, no worse than that. But it is what it is, right? You're 3-3. The young guys are getting experience, and they're playing well, and that's a good sign. And as you continue to lean on them, as you get some of the veteran players back, now the young guys have experience. And the more time they get on task, the better they will be prepared to help you when it matters the most down the stretch, late November, into December, into January, and potentially into February, depending on how everything goes. So if I'm a 49ers fan, I'm not tripping right now. It could be a lot worse. It probably should be a lot better, but you're at 3-3, right? It could be 2-5. It could be 2-4 right now. Could be 2-4. Could be 5-1, but you're 3-3. And so you continue to figure out everything as you go. What's the status of Jordan Mason moving forward? See what that looks like. Get Mooney Ward back here shortly, right? You just continue to try to get healthy. A lot of guys had nicks and bruises. Something happened to Debo. I talked about this, so let's talk about this game in particular with San Francisco. In the lead up to the game, I talked about this on the preview on the podcast earlier. I said they haven't done a good enough job of getting Deebo Samuel involved in the offense this year. He's looked more like a running back than he has a receiver, and I'm not okay with that. I get it that McCaffrey's not there, so you want to utilize him in the backfield a little bit more to kind of offset what McCaffrey does as a receiver, but they're not even using him in that capacity. I think when he gets back there, it's usually a run, right? I thought we would see more of him in the backfield and him actually running routes out of the backfield, especially when you get in the red zone. I would love to see him in the backfield, him snapping off those routes out of the backfield instead of Jordan Mason, right? Kyle needs to make that adjustment, because I don't think Debo has been a big enough part of this offense to this point of the season, but he was a factor tonight, and that was good to see. But I talked about that. Good to see him get involved because this offense is different when Deebo Samuel is a big part of it and he's scoring touchdowns. It's a different machine. I mean, you look at last year and they were scoring all these points and all these 30 and 40-point barrages. And how many of those games did Deebo Samuel have his fingerprints on? How many of those games did George Kittle have his fingerprints on? And it was good to see both of those guys get involved tonight. Kittle with 2 touchdowns, Deebo with 1. And that's the formula. With no McCaffrey, got to go to your stars, got to go to your big-time playmakers, and you got to get them the football in situations where they can make big-time plays. And so that was good to see. I thought Purdy did a good job of distributing the football tonight. I think people really underrate his mobility, his ability to move around. I thought we saw a lot of that on display in the playoffs last year, and I still think people underrate his ability to move. He's an athlete. Like, people try to make it seem like, yeah, Brock Purdy, is pocket mobile. He's not a guy that can. No, Brock Purdy can run. Like, Brock Purdy can move. He extends plays. He creates off schedule. Big first down run or third down run rather on the very first possession of the game. You would have hated to go 3 and out there, pinned it up in your own territory. He gets that first down. They move it all the way down the field, and of course have to settle for a field goal. But still, if not for that run where he breaks the tackle and gets the first down, that drive doesn't happen. They don't drive 90 some odd yards and settle for a field goal. So I thought Purdy's legs were impactful tonight. I thought Purdy throwing a football was impactful. And I think he gets a bad rap as this just game manager. That's all he is. He's basic. He's simple. And I just don't buy that. I just don't buy it. No, does he? Are his measurables off the charts? Does he have the monster arm? Is he, the tallest guy in the world? No, that's why you get the batted balls. Like last week, 2 batted balls result in 2 interceptions. No, he's not any of those things. But what he is the perfect quarterback for Kyle Shanahan's system, and he does a lot of things within the framework of the system, and then he can do things outside of it. And tonight was another example of that. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions for Brock Purdy. The run game, as I mentioned, I thought they were going to run all over Seattle. Seattle allowed Tyrone Tracy Jr. last week to run for 127 yards on like 18 carries. If he can do that in his first career start, what did you think the 49ers were going to do on the ground against Seattle? I knew they were going to get eviscerated on the ground. And I think I said 21 carries, 116 yards for Jordan Mason was my prediction. He would have had 170 yards tonight if he'd have stayed healthy. He would have been approaching 200 yards. The man had 73 yards, I believe. 73 yards on just 9 carries. 73 yards on 9 carries. Obviously had the big 38-yarder early, but he was going to have 170 something yards tonight on 21 carries. That's what it felt like, right? Then he gets hurt. They bring in Isaac Guerrero. We saw him a little bit last week as well. It was good to see him get out there again and then make the big run. 10 carries, 99 yards for Isaac Guerrero. He was better off scoring at the end. It looked like he slid on purpose. Like they had timeouts, so that wasn't the move. The move is to score in that situation because anything could have happened. You still had to run plays. What if you fumbled the snap on the next play and Seattle recovered? Like that's a rookie mistake. Right? He didn't know. He thinks he's doing the right thing there. No, the right thing was to score the touchdown there. You only slide when the other team has no timeouts because they can't stop the clock and the game's over. They had all 3 of their timeouts. So you sliding there doesn't help us at all. Because even if we have to settle for a field goal, they're still going to get the ball back with 30 some odd seconds and no timeouts. Highly unlikely that they score, but shit, you gave up a DK Metcalf touchdown that didn't count in the blink of an eye. Who knows what the hell could happen? He needed to score there, but luckily enough for him, didn't come back to bite the 49ers. And with their red zone woes and the untimely turnovers that have happened last few weeks, that was a little nerve-wracking for me. And I'm not even a 49ers fan. So glad that they were able to get the ball into the end zone because even settling for a field goal there with Matthew Wright having injured himself on the kickoff. Well, that was the kickoff after they scored the last touchdown. He hadn't injured himself yet. With their luck, the kick gets blocked and, return for a touchdown and then they lose the game, right? Like you got to situationally be aware there. He thought he was doing the right thing, but he really truly wasn't. But they ran for 228 yards on 33 carries in this game. 7 yards a pop. Again, they had some big runs. Obviously, the 76-yarder at the end, but still, they were killing them on the ground. And we knew they were going to do that. So it doesn't matter who's running the rock for the 49ers. They're going to run the football. That's what they do. So that was good to see. Defensively, thought they did a really good job of pestering Geno. I think they only got to him once at the very end. Yeah, he's only sacked one time, but there was a ton of pressure on him. The first interception of the game he threw, Bosa was in his face. So was, I want to say, Givens. Someone else was in his face as well. Excuse me. And so that was the Mustafa pick. They did a really good job, I thought, of just making Geno uncomfortable. And Matthew Wright did his job, got injured at the end. That was so kicker-like, right? Sticks his head in there, takes a shot, and he's the worst for wear after the whole ordeal. But he did his job, came in, knocked home all the field goals, made all of the extra points. And it was just good to see the 49ers do the things that they hadn't done in some of these earlier games this season in terms of putting away opponents. It still got a little dicey late, and if not for a Seattle penalty, this thing could have been even more dicier late because DK Metcalf gets loose. That can't happen. But again, when you're dealing with the youngins, right? When you're dealing with the youngins, these are the things that happen, right? Same thing with the Kenneth Walker III. He's down the sideline, wide ass open, and Geno just didn't see him. That's a touchdown, right? That's a touchdown before the 2-minute warning. That changes everything. That would have been a touchdown. Geno's DK's touchdown would have been a touchdown with about 4 minutes left. The if not 4, like 3 and some change, it would have been plenty of time, right? Even a first down, they still would have had a chance to be in the game, right? The Kenneth Walker one would have been a touchdown with about 2:30 left. So you'd had, again, plenty of time, 3 timeouts, 2-minute warning. It would have totally changed everything. And they blew both of those opportunities. So the 49ers still giving stuff up, right? Giving up some explosives, gave up the kickoff return. So special teams hurt you again. Well, last week wasn't really an issue. You had the block field goal that was on your end, but your kicker getting injured, that hurt you, right? But that's not something that you can control. But at the end of the day, well, yeah, actually, I take that back. Because it was a big return and your kicker had to try to make a tackle, that's why his ass got hurt. So in theory, special teams let you down last week because you didn't make a tackle when you were supposed to. I'm at the point now with San Francisco, hey, just kick that bitch into the end zone. Your coverage unit stinks. Gave up a big return last week. They got your kicker hurt. Gave up a touchdown this week. Yeah, you forced a fumble, but you negated that. Because I think on that fumble, you only got a field goal out of it. You gave up a whole touchdown. It changed the entire complexity of the game. This was a blowout. This thing was heading to blowout town at 23-3. And just like that, the game switched up and Seattle was back in the game because you gave up a touchdown. So my advice to them, and then they gave up a nice little return at the end of the game and got their kicker hurt again. My advice to them, just kick the bitch out of the end zone. Let them start at the 30 and let's cut all this nonsense out. You're not good enough to kick it to the 1 and force a return. You're a liability over there on special teams right now. So anyway, I digress. As far as the Seahawks are concerned, they are who I thought they were. You know, they got out of the gates quickly. They played a soft schedule. You barely beat Denver, barely beat New England in overtime. I forget who they beat in week 3, but they didn't play anyone. And it felt like, great, new coach, off to a fast start, 3-0. Let's see what you got. And then they started playing real opponents. And it started with Detroit, or excuse me, it started with, who was their first loss to? Who did they lose to? Yes, they started with Detroit. And Detroit took care of them in short order, scored 42 points, did whatever they wanted to do. Jared Goff was perfect on the day, 18 of 18. Bunch of big plays. You know, DK fumbled. And so I was like, okay, well, that wasn't bad. You know, that's a respectable loss. Maybe they're solid. But they always play Detroit well. As a matter of fact, they always beat Detroit. So just not beating Detroit should have been a sign to me that this isn't right. They're not well. The next week, they go home and they piss all over their leg against the Giants. That was an embarrassing performance. You have no business losing. And it's not like the Giants are this awful little sisters of the poor team that a lot of people make them out to be. But you had no business losing to them without Malik Neighbors. There's no excuse for that. None. If your coach, who's supposed to be this defensive wizard, is playing a team without their best player on offense, you can't then let, you know, some other receiver go off for a buck and some change. A first-time rookie starting running back go off for a buck and some change. And Daniel Jones looked like, you know, a confident, competent NFL quarterback again, right? It was a disgusting performance defensively, and offensively, you look just as lost as the offense did or defense did. So, and then the special teams topped off this nothing burger of a performance with a field goal getting blocked in return for a touchdown. The game time field goal getting blocked in return for a touchdown. So that was a 3-phase loss by the Seahawks against the Giants at home, and then they come out at home again on a quick turnaround Thursday night and throw a turnover, have a turnover on the opening possession of the game, turned it over 3 times overall. Should have been 4, right? Untimely penalties, giving up big plays, explosive to, Deebo Samuel for the touchdown and explosive to Garendo at the end of the game. They're not good. They're not a good team. And I said that on the podcast. They're like, I don't think they're a very good team. And I really think that when it's all said and done, they're an 8-win team, 7-8-win team, which is fine. But I mean, it's not, they're not going to move the needle one way or the other. And so the question will be, what factor are they in this division? Because right now they're tied for the lead. Obviously San Francisco just beat them. So technically tiebreaker-wise, the 49ers are in front, but they're tied at 3-3. But I don't think Seattle's better than Arizona. And maybe they're better than the Rams, but I'm not even sure if they're better than the Rams at this point, to be honest with you. So, and it's a young coach. So, there's things to iron out, and they got to figure out a lot of things. And all of this is being done on the fly. When you got a young coach that's never been an NFL head coach before, he's figuring things out. And a lot of times when you're in that head seat, when things happen, it's the first time it's happened to you. So I think this is going to be a growing pains year for the Seahawks. And we'll see what happens. Geno is maddening sometimes because for as accurate a thrower of the football as Geno can be, Geno refuses to run a lot of times. Where I'm like, Geno, get out of there. Why are you, Geno, get out of there. Too late sack. Or Geno forces it under duress and throws a pick. You're like, Geno, why? Right? Then the pick that he threw to Renardo Green, that's a bad interception, bro. And we could try to put that on DK drifting a bit. That ball wasn't, even if DK stays flat, it's not complete. It may not be an interception. It's not complete, though. Like, he was late over the middle of the football field. Like, Brock Purdy threw a pass that was gorgeous to watch on the same kind of route, dig route over the middle. And the difference was his was Brock's was in zone, right? So there are 2 Seahawk defenders getting depth in their zone drops, and the dig route comes in right behind them. And before you can even see the 49er receiver breaking in, that ball's out, and it's right in between those 2 Seahawk defenders. And then out of nowhere comes the San Francisco 49er receiver right where the ball is. Boop, catch up the field. I want to say it was Brandon Ayuk. That's how that's supposed to be done. Geno sees DK break over the middle of the field. He's open, and he still hasn't cut it loose. Like, you don't even see Renardo Green in the picture initially, and then Geno throws it, and here comes Renardo Green undercutting the route. And it's like, that's a bad throw, bro, because you're late. And we all know you cannot be late over the middle. Nothing great happens over the middle when you're late. So Geno's maddening because, Geno can be really good, and then Geno can just, remind you of why he was a backup for so long at times. So and then I can't, and I talked about this on the podcast, their unwillingness to run the football is staggering to me. Now, they had no success tonight. Kenneth Walker III had 14 carries for 32 yards. But with him, you have to keep giving him opportunities because at any time, at a moment's notice, he can snap off a 65-yard touchdown run. He's that dynamic and explosive. And the fact that he had like 6 or 9 carries last week, and they're averaging over 40 pass attempts a game speaks to their inability to understand what is necessary for them to remember. Because Geno isn't a carry the team type of quarterback. He's not a guy that you want throwing it 47. How many times did he throw? I think he threw it 50-something times tonight, did Geno? 52. That's not a winning recipe. He threw it that many times against Detroit last week, I believe. And it's different when you get down in games and but again, this was a 6-point game for much of the second half. Like, they didn't have to get away from the run. They choose not to run the football for whatever reason. And this defense, they don't stop the run well enough. Their pass defense isn't terrible, but it's not good. The Giants lit them up last week through the air. 49ers did the same in this game. And obviously, Jared Goff was perfect last week, or 2 weeks ago, rather. They just have struggled defensively. And I don't think they're a very good team right now. I really, truly don't. So they're 3-3. It feels like the two teams are kind of heading in different directions. They're like two ships passing in the night. One's heading towards improvement and getting better. The other is heading towards destruction this season. Growing pains, figuring things out. Let's look at Seattle's schedule, because as bad as I feel about them, the schedule may allow them to. No, it does not. It does not. Falcons. How many home games does the Falcons have this year? It feels like the Falcons have 11 home games this year. Good gracious. So they're at Atlanta, I'm assuming. Yeah, that's next week. Jesus. Atlanta, there's so many home games. It's ridiculous. Is that over in London or something? Probably not. So they got the Falcons on the road, home for the Bills. Then they are home for the Rams. That's the one game out of the next 4 I see them winning. Then they got to go to San Francisco. After that, I think there's a bye week, and then they go to San Francisco. The only game I see them winning in that 4-game stretch there of Atlanta, Bills, Rams, and 49ers is the Rams. And you could have Puka Nacua, and I'm pretty sure they will have Puka Nacua, barring any kind of setback, and Cooper Kupp back by then. So that might be a totally different Rams team that you're running into by that point. So I don't think this looks very good for them. A lot of tough games moving forward. Like I said, they're a 7, maybe 8-win team this year. You'll forget that they started off 3-0. I'll tell you that much. By the time we get to November, they'll be an afterthought. You would have forgotten that they started this season off 3-0. That's how I feel about them right now. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to Inside the Odds, powered by BetUS, and then we'll get to your comment section, to the comment section and your comments shortly thereafter.
Inside the Odds.
So let's talk about BetUS first and foremost. Looking for a new book this football season? BetUS has you covered. Fastest payouts in the industry. Get up to 10% back twice a year on your net losses. Not many books are doing that. And here's the big kicker. When you use the promo code YouTube150 as a new customer, you have a sign-up bonus of 150% off your first deposit of $2,000. And then the next 2 deposits are 125% off, up to $2,000. So use the promo code YouTube150. BetUS has got you covered. And always remember, bet responsibly. Bet what you can afford to lose. All right, let's talk about this game. Odds for this game. 49ers were 3.5-point favorites. I like the 49ers in this game by more than a touchdown, right? So that was an easy spread to cover in my estimation. What I was really interested in was the money line, or the point spread, the over-under total. Excuse me, the over-under total in this game. 49. I like that number. I think I had the score being 29-20, right? So I like that 49 number. I told you, I said Seattle could score anywhere from 22 to 20 points. And I had 49ers at 29. And up until that final touchdown, they scored, right? If Isaac Guerrero doesn't break off a 76-yarder, if he just gets a 12-yard gain and they're able to take knees, they would have scored 29 points. So I was on it, right? So obviously, I felt like I would have pushed. I felt like 49 was a perfect total. maybe 50, 51, somewhere in that neighborhood. I thought they were right on it with the total, though. I really liked the over-under total for this game. I thought it was a really good number that kind of represented where these two teams were. Let's get to a couple of specials from this game, also brought to you by BetUS. Again, also check out BetUS's prop builder. A lot of good stuff going on there, man. And again, no one knows your team like you. You can build your own prop, set it up nicely. You think Brock struggles against the Seahawks or he always kills the Seahawks? You think Geno Smith always struggles against the 49ers? He's going to turn it over. You think Kenneth Walker's going to have a big game? Whatever the case may be, you can build yourself a prop. Bet and make yourself some money. But here were some of the Thursday specials on the BetUS site. Any quarter to end scoreless. Plus 400 on the money line. So let's check and see. Did any quarter in this game end scoreless by both teams? I don't think that was the case. No quarters. Seahawks scored, or 49ers scored 3 in the first quarter. Seahawks none. 13 in the second for the 49ers. 3 for the Seahawks. Seahawks scored 14 in the third, 7 for the 49ers, and 13 for the 49ers in the fourth, 7 for the Seahawks. So no score. I thought there would be one scoreless quarter. I really did. And I thought it would be somewhere in the middle of the game, second or third quarter. Shocked that every quarter, and you know, I wouldn't have been shocked if it was the first quarter, but I thought somebody would score early, and the 49ers obviously did. Both teams to score in all 4 quarters. Unfortunately, the Seahawks didn't score in the first quarter, or else you put down $100, you could have had $750 if you would have bet on both teams to score in all 4 quarters, and that almost happened. If Seattle would have scored in the first quarter, then and Geno threw a pick, right? Geno throws that pick. If Geno doesn't throw that pick, they're in field goal range. So that was an interesting one that caught my attention. And then the last one, Brandon Ayuk to record 140 or more yards receiving in the game. He was coming off of his best performance of the season. He lit up the Arizona Cardinals secondary last week. So I didn't know if he would maybe roll that momentum into this game and poly that massive output from last week into this game. Not the case. Ayuk only 2 catches, 37 yards. So that would not have been a very good bet there. So those were the odds that caught my attention on BetUS's Thursday special for this game. Again, check out BetUS. Lots of good stuff there for you to bet on. So let's get to the comment section and what you guys have to say. You guys know how this works. For those of you who do not, if you're out there, you want your comment read on the air, if time permits, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air. And if time permits, we'll get to your comments and react to them. Can't assure you that we will get to your comments. To ensure that we get to your comment, use this super chat function that will allow you not only to have your comment read on the air and reacted to, it also will allow you to jump straight to the front of the line. So we'll get to as many comments as we can and as many as time will allow. So let's get to the super chats first and foremost. Video channel, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Video channel writes, "Sup, Lou? Hope the fam is good. Sam time in Seattle. I thought about it, but I mean, is Geno Smith really the problem? He wasn't great tonight, obviously, but and the 2 picks were awful. Let's call a spade a spade. The 2 picks were awful. The second one was very, very egregious and backbreaking because, again, it's a 6-point game. But that wasn't anything but the football gods righting a wrong. That's all that was. Trust me, I've watched enough football. I've communicated with the football gods so many times. I know how they work. That wasn't nothing but the balancing of the scales. The football guys said, hey, chill. Louie T, chill, bro. Niners fans, pipe down. I got it, bro. I got it. Okay? We got it. We'll take care of it. Okay? Remember in Dumb and Dumber where he says, hey, I took care of it. That's what the football gods said to the 49ers, 49ers, I took care of it. Calm down. And so that's all that Geno, that pick was the football guys even in the score, right? So still had a chance to throw the touchdown pass to DK Metcalf, and it was called back, but I don't think we're at that point yet. It's way too early. You're 3-3. You're not, 3-6. Geno is still the quarterback of this team, and he gives you the best chance to win right now. And so I think if we get to a point where 3-0 turns to 3-5 or 3-6, and Geno isn't playing the type of football that you feel like is allowing his team to maximize their talents, then maybe you could see it become Sam time. Here's another thing with Geno. Geno's good for an injury at some point. Geno's good for, a sprained ankle, finger comes down on a helmet or something. So you just wait it out and maybe something might happen to him. That's not what you're hoping, right? Not looking for that to happen. But if I'm Mike McDonald, the last thing I'm thinking about is making a quarterback change right now. That's not something I'm even entertaining right now. Amario Delcet, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Lou, bro, hope the fam is well. Likewise. Sunday, all eyes on us. Yeah, I mean, we're the best show in town. It's a big one. Looking forward to it. Haven't felt this type of energy surrounding a Commanders game since the 2022 Giants game is the last one that in the regular season that had this type of feel where it was a big game and you knew it. That one was a little bit bigger, obviously, because that had playoff implications tied to it. And it was family business, and it was Sunday night football. So there was a lot of things that made that game big. But this is obviously, I think, a bigger situation for obvious reasons. We're really good, like playoff, Super Bowl, NFC Championship game type good right now. And this game is one of those steps that you need to take if you're serious about maybe making some kind of noise, right? Duncan Wright, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Duncan writes, really, you think you can beat the Cowboys or Eagles? Yeah, why wouldn't I? What has either one of those teams done this year that makes you think they're not beatable? Let's get real. There's no way you beat good teams. Beat Ravens, then talk, buddy. Well, we'll see. Even if we don't beat the Ravens, I still think, first of all, you're not the Ravens. The Cowboys didn't beat the Ravens. So I don't think that us not beating the Ravens means anything that in terms of beating you or the Cowboys. So anyway, I'm looking forward to silencing the noise. Looking forward to the fellas silencing the noise. J.2626. Stand up. You are the newest member of the MOBB mob. Show J.2626 some love. Welcome him with open arms. Welcome to the squad. J.2626. Duncan Wright. Super sticker. Really, truly do appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Appreciate the super sticker. Duncan Wright. Uh-oh. Is it drunken right night? Is that where we going? I may be drunk, but at least it's a reason. We suck. Fair enough. You are allowed to drink your sorrows away. So knock them back. Drink. Have a drink for me. All right. Have one for me. All right. Let's see. See where we at here. Says we play. Oh yeah, that's right. We played. Thank you, John. Played Miami. I always forget that game was so forgettable. Wow, that was a bad game. And that was kind of the sign that the Seahawks weren't very good. That at least it should have been to me. because the Dolphins were awful in that game and they were on like their 9th string quarterback, and you only beat them 24-3. That felt like that game should have been 41-3. And instead it was 24-3. And that should have told me all I needed to know about the Seahawks. But you're right. That's right. Thank you for that. You're absolutely right. When John Wynn says, if you remember a flashback from last week against the Giants at home, we were supposed to score a touchdown with Kenneth Walker, but instead it was a bad call to make a 40. Yeah, I don't know if it was a bad call or not, but it's the same thing that happened tonight. You had a penalty negate a touchdown opportunity, and you got to stay away from those types of things. And they just haven't been able to do that, right? Niners fan says, I saw your tweet raging against New York and the refs. I just don't understand why they don't overturn it if the guys on the broadcast can notice it too. I can't, like, for the life of me, I don't understand how they think it's acceptable for them to tell us, oh, we didn't have that angle. What do you mean you didn't have the broadcast angle? He said they only had the initial TV feed angle. They didn't have. What are you talking about? How does the network have an angle that New York doesn't have access to? That doesn't make any sense. Isn't all of these cameras supposed to be connected to New York to where they can have every angle that any camera that is on that field that is shooting footage, they should have access to it? How is it that you don't have something that the TV broadcast feed has? That doesn't make any sense. That felt lazy to me, is what it felt lazy. Because you can't tell me, and they tried to cover their ass because it was so blatant. So they have the in-house referee come on and say, well, I talked to the head official in New York and he said that they didn't have the, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. Niners fan. Hold on, I got a super. Alex L. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, damn, I kind of wanted Mike McDonald after Ben Johnson backed out. Thank God we got DQ. In AP, we trust. A lot of people first pivot after Ben Johnson backed out. A lot of people's first pivot was, oh, well, let's just go get Ben McDonald. Ben, you got me calling the man Ben McDonald. Excuse me. Mike McDonald. You even call him Ben McDonald. A lot of people's option was, let's pivot to Mike McDonald. And I never was a big Mike McDonald guy. If they had settled in on him, I could have convinced myself, but I really was fixated on an offensive-minded coach. So I wasn't even thinking about Mike McDonald. And obviously I was wrong because DQ's a defensive-minded guy. But my whole mindset was we need an offensive-minded coach. We just came from a defensive-minded guy who didn't get it. I'm not interested in another defensive-minded coach. But like you said, and we've said this many a time since then, the best thing that happened to us was getting DQ. The best thing that happened to us. And that whole search was them, hiring Dan Quinn. Couldn't have hired a better coach for this situation and for where we're trying to go and how we're trying to get there. DQ was the perfect hire. Edward Washington, my guy, Eddie Dub. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, missed call is extra BS because they have been calling in with replay assist all season. And they did it in tonight's game. The catch by Jawan Jennings, replay assist came in when no one was challenging. Who gives a shit about a 2-yard gain? And replay assist said, hey, hold on. We care. Woo-hoo. That's not a catch. So instead of it being 3rd and 14, go back 2 yards and make it 3rd and 16. So if you can find that shit, you can stop the game and you can get that shit right. You telling me the game has been stopped, a challenge has been issued. You caused not only them getting the football, This was a close game, and you cost them a timeout. And I didn't even think about the timeout aspect because I was so hot like it was my team. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, what if it was my team? This shit is not acceptable. And I'm not okay with it because it ain't my team, because then it could become my team. I didn't think about it until San Francisco got into the red zone and called a timeout. And I said, and they said they got one timeout remaining. I went, wait, what? They got how many? One? When they have, and I said, and then Al Michaels said, remember, on the botch call, they challenged and they lost the tie. I said, oh shit, that's twofold. That's a double whammy. They got to do better than that shit, man. That's unacceptable. Not in a 6-point ball game. That is unacceptable. Unacceptable. All right. Niners fan writes, we got some dogs in this past draft. Pooney, Renardo, Mustafa have all been really good. And you could throw in Garendo with the way he finished tonight. It's looking like a really good group, and you still haven't seen your first round pick yet, which is crazy. That'll top it off, right? If Ricky Pearsall comes in and he's a dog, this might be a stellar draft class for you. You know, hopefully Mustafa's fine, because I know he had gotten injured in the game at some point and did not. I don't think he returned either, so hopefully he's okay. Metaphor says, starting off the week right to go 14-0 in winners and losers. JD him finna go 16-1 as well. I thought I ain't even gonna shit you. I thought I was going 14-0 last week. After I got out of the first half of games unscathed, I was like, I got a shot, man. I felt good about them second half games. And lo and behold, we had some upsets, but we'll see what happens this week. Guy, the key is do it again, right? Niners fan writes, Geno always stinks against us for some reason. I think it's because he holds the ball way too long. And that could be it too. I mean, Geno, there's some guys that just trust, like Kirk Cousins is another guy that I think he just trusts the pocket entirely way too much. There's like chaos all around them. And for some reason, they're like, bro, I'm just going to stand in here. And if the shit don't work, they got me. And I'm like, and you know, with certain quarterbacks, like with Kirk coming off of the Achilles, you understand why he's a little bit hesitant to be moving around a ton, right? But Geno can move. He's not a statue back there, but he conducts himself as if he's a statue. And he does hold on to the ball way too long. So maybe that is the reason he struggles against you. I don't know. Kevin, the PRF, thank you for this rights. San Francisco should just have a fan night where they let a fan come down and rush for 125 yards. Hey, look, man, the system is the system. And it is tested. It is a tried and true method that has stood the test of time. It works. And, you know, that would be pretty dope, because it feels like anybody could get down there. And I get it. We're simplifying things, and, you know, we're not giving them enough credit for, you know, guys being able to do their jobs. But it feels like you can get somebody out of the stands, like a former college player that's watching the game. You feel like you can grab him. I was like, who is this Patrick Taylor Jr. dude? You know, I bet you if he would have played the whole game, he would have had 117 yards tonight. You know, it's just crazy how they conduct business. Harambe, 2024. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Lou, why other teams' media such homers compared to ours? They always be hyping up their team and throw shade at ours. Our media always shows props. Look, every team's social media group throws shade at other teams. just how it goes. You're supposed to be a homer to your team. My thing is, I don't mind homerism, but keep your homerism to your team. Like, don't let your homerism bleed into somebody else's situation. Like, you don't need to try to prop your team up at our expense. Like, worry about your own shit. Like, you would never, I can't say you would never hear. I don't listen to them enough. But I doubt you would hear Fred Smoot, London Fletcher, Logan Paul. I know Logan wouldn't do it. But Santana Moss, I don't think you would hear any of those guys bring up Caleb Williams and his struggles to try to uplift Jaden Daniels. I just don't see them doing that. So it's just, it's hard for me to stomach when you work for the Bears and your idea of trying to get people to understand, like, just talk about Caleb Williams. Like, you talking about how Jaden Daniels is running a simplistic college offense where he's only making one read, which is not true. He's got more responsibilities than Caleb Williams does at the line of scrimmage. He's making full field reads. He's making all kinds of throws and making up all kinds of bullshit that isn't true to fit a narrative so that you can try to convince Bears fans that they got the right guy. Like, where's the psychological sense in that, player? You need to wash your face and get your mind right. And that's the thing that's really bothersome right now, is like, it's unnecessary. But to each its own. I got bigger fish to fry. I'm out here trying to win games, win a division, win, some playoff games and get to the NFC. I ain't got time to be worrying about teams who probably ain't going to be making it to the playoffs, right? I ain't got time for that. Those are petty affairs that I'll deal with at a later date and time. I'll deal with those at a later date and time. Harambe 2024. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, for example, JP Finley's show, when they interview other beat reporters, they always throw shade, borderline smug. JP won't call them out or nothing. Well, JP asked him to be on his show. So, I mean, do you want to be disrespectful to a guest that you asked to come on the show? Because if you are, guess what? I'm not doing your show again. And then word gets out that JP is attacking guests, and now you can't get guests. So you try to be extra careful how you address guests. And if they feel like they want to say something reckless, you let them, right? That's their opinion. JP's not going to say anything because, again, I want to have guys come on the show and have them feel free to say whatever it is they feel on the show and not feel like they're going to be attacked if they say something I don't agree with. So, to each its own. And I've heard some of the disrespect, not necessarily this year, but in past years when people, and we probably deserved it in past years, when people would come on those types of programs and talk mad shit about us and, be super disrespectful. But this year is not warranted, and it's all good. All of that will take care of itself. All of it will take care of itself. I just love being in this position where we got so many haters because you're winning. You're doing something right. If you don't have haters, you ain't doing something right. Because people don't give a shit about when you trash. They ignore you. They discount you. They dismiss you. Why do I even need to give you energy? When you're good, they're going to find a reason to hate. As a wise man once said, they hate us because they ain't us. That's what it feels like. Hate. Harambe 2024. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, that's true. Didn't see it like that. But at the same time, guess we haven't given people reasons to respect us the past 25 years. Facts. You want respect? It's not given in a 5-week stretch. You got to go out and take it over the whole course of this year. And you do that, guess what? They got no choice but to respect you next year. Every year, every point this year, we beat the Ravens, guess what? They're going to come up with something else. There'll be less people coming up with shit, but there'll be more people hating because you just did something they didn't think you could do, right? Now the excuse of you ain't played nobody yet, that's out the window. So they'll come up with something else. But like I said, we got the Bears in a couple of weeks. We get a chance to dust their ass off in person. That's why I ain't even tripping about them. We see y'all. We see y'all. We'll make it personal then. We'll make it real personal then. Hank Midas writes 3-0 to 3-3. Reality comes fast. NHL time, not quite yet, but reality definitely has set in for the Seattle Seahawks for sure. Hank Midas also writes Sunday's game against the Ravens will be determined in the trenches. I agree with that. I think that's a really good assessment. Niners fan says apparently it's Gino's birthday. He gave us 2 great presents. Good one. Good one. What y'all get him? A loss for his birthday? That's not very nice. John Wynn says, screw my Seahawks team. Time for me to think about smashing my TV. Calm down, John. No loss is worth smashing a TV for, although they're very affordable these days. Okay, you can smash your 32-inch TV and go buy another one for $70. I wouldn't advise you to do that, though. Not a smart move. Comasel Brown. Right? The only thing Seahawks need is some NHL Nitro to feed the damn ball to Walker. I just don't understand how a running back that dynamic is so insignificant in the, like, I know Pete Carroll is somewhere rolling. No, that's not funny. Pete Carroll is somewhere almost choking on a huge wad of gum right now, seeing how they're using Kenneth Walker III. This is abuse right now. Negligence, pure negligence on their part. I know Kenneth Walker III is like, man, I miss Coach Pete because he knew he was going to get at least 20 carries every week with Pete Carroll back there as the head coach. Harambe 2024. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Harambe writes, I ain't the only one annoyed with the Lamar 2.0 comparisons to JD5, right? No. I mean, hell, JD5 is annoyed, and let everybody know I'm not down with the comparisons, especially Lamar. So I think most people feel like it's a lazy, low-hanging fruit comparison and narrative, right? That's lazy. I get it. No offense to Lamar, but JD5 is a much better pocket QB, in my opinion. I think this is part of the reason why Ravens fans feel threatened, right? I've talked about this already, though. At least comparing rookie years to Lamar's, what do you think? I mean, Lamar wasn't ready to come in. He didn't even start at the very beginning. That was Joe Flacco's team. And Joe got hurt like maybe 10 games in. Lamar started the final 6 games and then the playoff game against the Chargers that year and lost. So Lamar, obviously what Jaden is doing is off the charts. We've never seen a rookie quarterback do the things he's doing right now. Hence all the records that have been shattered in the first 5 games of the season thus far. So clearly Lamar wasn't on his level coming out of Louisville. But again, that's not saying much because nobody's been on Jaden's level, this early in his career. So can't say that it's just a Lamar Jackson thing. See where we at. We got about another 10 minutes if we got comments. All right. Comasel Brown writes, it's weird that CMC is out. They are with CMC out. They no longer use gadget plays with Debo, occasionally going nuts, running the ball when they're so successful doing that. I don't get it. it almost feels like they're overcompensating too much for Christian McCaffrey not being in the backfield. Like, to me, they do this with Debo. They give him tosses and things like that out of the backfield all the time, even when Christian was healthy. But like you said, he was more of the jet sweep. He was more of the wide. Like, I didn't see a single wide receiver screen to Debo. He's the best wide receiver screen receiver in the NFL. I don't think I've seen maybe but one or two of those this season to him. Like, that doesn't make any sense, you know? And if you're going to use him in the backfield, as I said earlier, why not use him as a pass catcher? He's a receiver, for God's sake, right? Get him isolated on a linebacker and let him win that matchup. That's easy money. That's stealing. I don't really think they're utilizing him in the manner that I think they should. But again, I digress. Let's see. Common Brown says, so you saying you picked the Niners? I picked them this week. LOL. Yeah, did you see I did a podcast episode earlier. I always make sure I do my podcast episode where I, give you my picks. I try to make sure I do my picks live so you can see them, so you know what my picks are before time. I didn't get to do it last week, so I had to tell you what my pick was. I'm always going to make sure you know my pick before the game, prior to the game, whether I have to tweet it out on socials or, but normally I try to do a podcast usually Wednesday, but I think I'm going to change. I think I like the Thursday slot for the podcast. We'll see. I might go back to Wednesday just because it's more conducive from a time perspective. But yeah, I did my preview for the game, and I had the Niners in this game for sure. Harambe 2024. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Harambe writes, the mainstream pundits like to point out his athleticism. But Lou, as good of an athlete as Jaden is, he is just as good with his IQ, arm talent, pocket awareness, and grit. He's an amazing QB all around. Absolutely. And I think most people, again, those who know, Harambe. Those who know. Because a lot of the things you just talked about were intangibles that people like Kirk Herbstreit, who did the game tonight, who does the Thursday night games for Amazon, who does the college football, games for ESPN, along with, Chris Fowler. And those two are amazing together. He said before the draft, I know everybody's going crazy about Caleb Williams, and a lot of people like Drake May and Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. And there are a lot of good quarterbacks in this draft. But he said the best quarterback in this draft, and everyone will find out eventually, is Jaden Daniels. He's special. He said that. And so those who know, right? And he wasn't the only person before the draft to say Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in this draft class. And if you don't draft him number one overall, you're making a mistake. Kirk Herbstreit wasn't the only person to say that. So I think a lot of people understand what it is. It's easy to compare him to Lamar because, again, there's some similar skill sets between the two. But if we're talking about as a passer from the pocket, he's way more polished than Lamar was coming out, and I think he's already more polished as a passer than Lamar Jackson already. So yeah, there's that. Let's see. Commissar Brown writes, I think Seahawks' issue is more OC play calling than the QB. I know they got a new system. I know this quarterback, this new OC likes to throw the football, obviously a lot more. My question, and I don't know a lot about him, but my guess is he's coming from the collegiate ranks. That's what it feels like because of how often they're throwing the football. NFL play callers understand the importance of the run game. It's the college guys that come in that lose sight of how important it is to stay balanced, run the football. Because in college, you don't have to run the football as much. You can use the short pass game as an extension of the run in the NFL, I think it's important to stay balanced, especially when you got a stud back like Kenneth Walker III. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to not get him the football and get him more, even if, and they throw him a lot of screens, right? I bet you had like 7 or 8 catches tonight. Let's see. He had 8 catches tonight, and he had 7 last week against the Giants, even though he only had like 9 carries. He had like 7 catches. You see, they throw that little underneath screen where he's coming like out wide as a receiver, and then he kind of comes in short motion, and then they use like a little shallow cross, and then they throw it to him in the offensive line, and the receivers get out in front and block. So they like to throw that to him, and that's in effect a touch in space for him. So it's not like they're not getting him involved. It's just he's a dynamic running back, and so I just think he needs more touches in that regard. We saw it on Monday Night Football against the Lions. He scored 3 touchdowns in that game. It was magnificent, and we know what he is already as a running back, and it's just crazy that they don't get him more opportunities on the ground. Right? So what? They didn't care about our BS calls before this year, so now I don't care about theirs. And we get calls in our favor now, and we're good enough now to overcome bad ones. That's not the point, E. It's not the point. The point is you have every resource to get it right. It's hard to overcome. That's a turnover. We're not talking about a catch, no catch. We ain't talking about Terry's foot being in bounds last year against Philadelphia. And while that wasn't the most obvious thing to see, we all thought it was a catch. And the fact that they ruled it incomplete on the field made it easy for them to just say, hey, we don't have enough evidence. But we thought it was a catch. But that's a catch, no catch. You know, the next play on that drive, we could have, or we could have went 3 and out after that. I won't even say, because the next play, the 49ers could have turned it over. But it's not just not making the right call. That call took a scoring opportunity off the board, and it took a timeout in a close 6-point game from the 49ers. That's not okay. That's not okay. And they got too many angles, and they got too many resources to not see what they needed to see to determine that was so clear and obvious from that one angle. And it wasn't some crazy cockamamie angle where you're like, damn, where'd they get that angle from? Where they zoomed in or some shit like that, like a pylon cam or some crazy shit. So it was just a direct angle. Boom, right there. And you telling me you don't have that copy? That's not okay. It's not okay. Red Boy, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Red Boy writes, Vic is a better comp for JD, just skinnier. I would say Vic was always a better passer than Lamar Jackson to me. Vic is probably, I think Lamar Jackson is faster than Michael Vick. I think not by much, but I think Michael Vick is 10 times quicker than Lamar Jackson. You know what? It might be the other way around. Vic might be straight line speed faster than Lamar. That would be a hell of a race. I think Lamar might be quicker. Vic used to do some sick shit, but Lamar has done he does some real nasty work with quickness. I think it might be the other way around. I don't think JD is Vic either. Because again, you're talking about the athleticism is off the charts with Michael Vick. And Michael Vick's arm is way stronger than Jaden Daniels, which is not a big deal. And Daniels' arm is plenty strong, as we've seen already. He can pump it 60 yards down the field with ease. But yeah, Vic was a different animal coming out of Vatech. And I say all of that, and still Jaden Daniels is doing things that Michael Vick couldn't do, right? He's a better pocket passer than Michael Vick ever was. But Vic he had his moments where he was cerebral from the pocket. I don't think that the comp should, he's Jaden Daniels. And The reason why you get to have that comp and just say he's just him is he's doing things no other quarterback has done in his first 5 career starts. So he's just him, you know? Harambe 2024. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Harambe 2024 writes, don't want to go down a Commander's rabbit hole, but after 5 weeks, what are your thoughts of the impact of AP's personnel selection, draft, free agency, cuts, trades, etc.? I've been impressed so far. That's funny. Don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but then you ask a Commander's question, which sends us down a Commander's rabbit hole. How can you not be impressed, Harambe? Like, seriously, how can you not love what he's done in every facet thus far? From the hiring of Dan Quinn, the hiring of the front office personnel, right? To the coaching staff being filled out, and that was probably more DQ than it was Adam Peters. But to the players that they signed in free agency, to the players that they drafted, to even how they structured the roster, you know, going out and getting Noah Brown at the end, trading away Jahan Dotson, trading away and getting another pick for Captain Insano, John Ridgeway. Like, every button that he's pressed has been the right one. Every button. Every button. You have to be super impressed with Adam Peters. But I knew he was this type of GM. I knew what we were getting. Big Money Sonny. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Big Money Sonny. Right. They have no answers, Lou. Up top. They got no answers. Let's go up top. Let's do it. I'm with it. If you with it, I'm with it. Harambe 2024. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Harambe writes, Seahawks fans, y'all want Sam Howell to start? I don't know if there are many Seahawks fans out there right now. That's a great question. And if any Seahawks fan watches this video, I think that's a great question, and I'd love to know how they feel. I'll probably ask that same question on the podcast tomorrow. I don't think, and I think somebody said this earlier. It might have been Comasel Brown, but I don't think this is a Geno Smith problem necessarily. To me, they're putting Geno in a position to fail because they're asking him to throw it more times than he should in an NFL game on a weekly basis. The more you ask Geno to throw the football, the more times he's putting the ball in harm's way. If Geno was only throwing it 32 times instead of 52 times, maybe he only throws 1 interception because he threw the first interception fairly early in the game. But maybe the second one doesn't happen. Right? Maybe the second interception doesn't happen. Maybe he's more efficient. Maybe the offense runs smoother. Maybe play action fake works better. Maybe so many more aspects of their offense is more cohesive if it's not skewed pass run ratio, if it's not skewed to the pass side. So I don't know if Sam Howell comes in and drastically changes your fortunes. You know what I'm saying? Might be a play calling situation. Harambe 2024. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Harambe writes, Lou, the most satisfying this Sunday for me would be for us to not only get the win, of course, but to out physical them and take the life from them. I mean, now you're getting picky. I don't have a preference. I just want to win the game. I don't care if we won the game 3-2, right? I really don't care how it looks. You know, obviously this feels like a shootout. This feels like, you know, the first to 38 wins. You know, that's what this feels like. But we'll see. We could get fooled and this thing could be 23-20. But it feels like 38-33, 35-33, 36, 38-36. That's what this feels like. Either way, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. This is gonna be a fun game, man. I'm excited. I'm excited. I really truly am. Harambe 2024. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes? Probably won't happen, but that happens. I'm going crazy, Lou. LOL. If we won the game and they out physicaled us, but we won the game, you're still going crazy, Harambe. What are you talking about? You're going crazy regardless. If it's a Commanders dub, you're losing your shit, regardless of how it happens. You know, it would just be icing on the cake for you. It'd be a cherry on top, right? But you'd go crazy either way. Trust me. I know you will. Anyway, I digress. Big win for the San Francisco 49ers. Let me give a quick shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this stream. Looking for a book this season. I'm telling you, man, BetUS has you covered. Use the promo code YouTube150 when you go to betus.com as a new user and get a sign-up bonus of 150% on your first deposit of up to $2,000, and the next two deposits are 125% sign-up bonus. Use that promo code YouTube150. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Thursday Night Football Overtime. Niners get the win 36-24 over the Seattle Seahawks. Get back to 500. Get their first divisional win of the season. This was big. You could not afford to fall not only to 2-4 and allow the Seahawks to get to 4-2 and double you up record-wise, but you couldn't afford to fall to 0-3 in the division with a loss to each team in the division. That just wasn't going to be something that was okay to overcome, right? It was going to be tough to overcome 0-3 and 2-4, overall, and 0-3 in the division. It just was going to be tough. So this one was a big one. They got it done. They created 3 turnovers in this game. They ran for over 220 yards, 228 to be exact. Brock Purdy threw 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. They did give up the big kickoff return, but this felt like 49ers football. This felt like 49ers football. Sans for the kickoff return, giving up for a touchdown. This felt more like 49ers football that we were accustomed to seeing last year. Seems like everybody's getting their mojo back up off the Seattle Seahawks. The Lions got their mojo back because they hadn't played Lions ball up until then, right? Hadn't scored 40, hadn't scored 30 up until that point. And they got their shit together off the Seahawks. And same thing could be said for the 49ers. This is the first time this season that they've scored up over 30, right? So this felt right. This felt like a Niners victory, and ran the football effectively. Better success, even though they still weren't very clean in the red zone, but better than they were a week ago, obviously. And so they're now 3-3. So are the Seahawks, but again, they both have the same record, but it feels like they're going in different directions. Seahawks have lost 3 out their last 3 games, and the next 4 aren't very easy either. And I only see them winning 1 of the next 4 games. So I wouldn't be shocked to look up and see a team that was 3-0 be 4-7, by the time we get to late October into November. So big win for the 49ers. Another tough loss at home for the Seattle Seahawks. They have no one to blame but themselves. You needed to beat the Giants to kind of insulate yourself so that if you lost this game, it wouldn't feel the way that it feels right now. But because you lost to the Giants at home last week, you would have been 4-1, and then you'd have been 4-2 right now, and you'd go, oh, you know what? No sweat. 49ers got us. It's all good. We still lead the division, so forth, so forth. You lose last week, you lose this week, now all of a sudden it's 3 in a row, and it feels like the sky's falling, and now you got this nasty momentum in the wrong direction, and the only thing that's going to stop it is a win. And here's the bad part. I don't know when it's coming. I don't know when the next win is coming. So we will see. Harambe 2024. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Harambe writes, if you had to pick a Louvu or a JD5 jersey, I know it sounds easy, but really think about it, bro. Love Louvu the Beast or the JD5 the Surgeon. This is the only thing you have to ask yourself. If you're making a purchase like that and you want to get your money's worth, Who's going to be here longer? Okay. Now, if you want to stand out, everybody's got a JD5 jersey. Louvu's jersey, obviously, they're going to be people with that jersey as well, but they're going to be a lot less of 4 jerseys than there are 5 jerseys. But if you want your jersey to matter 6 years from now, 7 years from now, it's a no-brainer, right? Harambe 2024. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Harambe writes, Louvu got me wanting to go get the tribal tattoos. LOL. I told you he was a dog. I told y'all before we even signed him, I said, I'm telling you, they're going to sign Frankie Louvu. I will go and get this guy immediately. Carolina is foolish for letting him walk away. This dude is an animal. And I said, you're going to love him. I told you, I guaranteed it. I said, you guys are going to love him. And now everybody's loving Frankie Louvu. Like I told you. And I had so many people say, you were right, Louie T. I was waiting on it. Man, I love this dude. I said, I told you. I do this. I do this. Frankie's a dog, man. Frankie's a wolf. He ain't a dog. He's a wolf. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. Until next time, signing off. God bless. Good night. I know I was right. Thank you for telling me. I appreciate it, though. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Harambe 2024. I didn't need that one. I got plenty of them already. But I appreciate it anyway. Get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your night.